on, everyone? I'm Corey, this is Offbeat Motors, and this time around we're going to do the follow-up video of my last one, which was some things that I liked about the Challenger, and this time we're going to do a few things that I don't like about my Challenger. This list is actually pretty small, and there's not a lot that I don't like about this car, but there are a couple of things. So let's get right into it, and some of this you may agree with me on, some of it you may not. So either way, these are the things I personally think. Things that I personally don't like. So anyways, yeah, whatever I was trying to say. Anyways, so let's get right to it. First and foremost, it's something that I love, but it's something I also hate. It is this standard transmission. Transmission itself. The transmission itself is pretty good, indirect and whatnot, no problems with that. The problem I have with it is the shifter. It's a pretty decent shifter for what it is. It's a lot better than other cars that I've owned, so I can't complain in that aspect. But a buddy of mine at work has a 2016 Mustang GT with like a performance pack or something like that. Which I don't think has anything to do with the shifter, but it's a standard, and I had the pleasure of driving that car one day, and that shifter is so much better than this. This one just seems to have a lot of play side to side, and it's a lot longer throw compared to what the Mustang is, and that was a stock shifter, so that's going to have to be something I'm probably going to address in the future with short throw shifter, which leads me to my next thing. Aftermarket performance parts for this thing. Now, because it's not an LS and put into every damn thing on the market that like Chevy does, it's a Hemi, a lot of you know things tend to be a little scarce and a little on the pricier side when you're looking for things. Same goes for the shifter. A lot of times you can find shifters for like the Mustang and Camaros for like $300, and they're pretty decent shifters. Now and you got a lot to choose from. Now with the Challenger, you don't have as many options, and they're more expensive. So what are your options? You got the factory shifter, and then you have the Mopar shifter, which really doesn't do anything. It may shorten up the throw just a little bit, but that's about it. It's not very much. It's a small percentage. Besides that, you then have Hurst, which, from what I read, most of the people that have gone with a Hurst shifter have ended up ditching that and going with the fourth and final option, Barton shifter, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing, because there's no sense in spending the money on one of the other two shifters and then just turn around and going with Barton shifter, because, well, it's going to be the best on the market, which also happens to be like the most expensive also. But you're going to get in that aspect, I guess you're going to say you're going to get what you pay for. So it is what it is. There's not really anything you can really do about it, because there's not anybody else making shifters for this car. So that'll be what probably I end up doing down the road to fix my issue with this shifter. Alright, so next, I don't understand why they would go ahead and put a cold air intake in this car and then leave the factory resonated intake tube that goes from the air box to the throttle body. It just looks hideous, for starters, and it does absolutely nothing. It's all for sound, obviously. And I do plan on putting a catch can in this, so obviously I'm going to have to change that. And that kind of ties in with my last thing I was stating about the price of things. I started looking at some of these intake tubes, specifically for the Challenger, and they're like $150. It's ridiculous. So for a freaking tube, and it's not a long tube. But it looks like, from what I've seen, and you can tell me if I'm correct on this or not, or if I'm wrong, the RT Chargers had a just elbow without a resonator on it, and that will fit onto this. So I may look into seeing if I can get one of those, which I could probably pick up for around 50, 60 bucks, which would be a considerable savings. But I was kind of hoping for something that was going to be smooth and possibly aluminum or stainless or something, without having to make one myself, because, well, I don't really have the time or the place to do that. So that's something I'm going to have to look into and fix as well. Let's see. Next, the brakes. It's a heavy car. Everybody knows that. She's nowhere near as light as a Camaro or a Mustang, but yet the brakes seem to be about the same size as those. And you know, she's a heavy girl. She needs a lot of brakes. And yeah, you have the option of going with the upgraded packages, so you can get the Brembos. But hang on. But I didn't do that. I went with the standardized brakes because of payment-wise, I needed to be where I wanted to be and where I ended up being. So I didn't get that package. Anyways, so that's something a little to be desired for the standard brakes on this. They really should have done a little better on those. I'm not saying they had to go with Brembos, but I think they could have done a lot better than what's on it to begin with, and that's something else I'll have to address down the road. I don't know if I'm going to do a complete changeover of brakes to Brembos or something like that, or just change out the rotors and pads to something a little more sportier so it gives it a better stopping distance. So that'll be something I'll have to tackle as well, and seems like I have to do that with quite a bit of things in this. This is just nitpicking, and I know it's not just with this car, but the fact that one of the features right out of the gate does not work. And I have to take it in to have it looked at to find out what the problem is. And I know I'm not the only one that has had this problem. What am I talking about? Well, it's the launch control. I waited till 500 miles. Actually, it was closer to 600 miles when I finally decided to try it out. And when you go to try to use the launch control, you cannot adjust the RPM range. It stays at 1,000. And then when you try to actually launch the car, you follow the instructions. Once you activate it, which it does show as being activated, you put your foot to the floor and it just revs right out. It does not stop where it's supposed to at the 1,000 RPM mark. It just keeps right on climbing to red line and hits the rev limiter. So a little ticked off about that, and that's a little disappointing. And I know I'm not the only one that's had that problem. And then, like I mentioned in my last video, the air conditioning and heating controls stopped working all of a sudden out of the blue, and I had to pull the car over, turn the car off, turn the car back on, and then they finally decided to work. And I think it's all tied into this Uconnect system. So whatever that is, whether it's a reflash or a replacement of the Uconnect, that's going to fix. They'll probably fix both problems. But the air conditioning and heating problem has not returned since I did that. So I don't know about that. So like I said, that's pretty much all I have, as in things I don't like. Like I said, there's not a lot. I really, really like this car, and I had to pretty much nitpick it in order to come up with a few things that I didn't like. But obviously there was always something that you don't like. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It was informative to you, and let me know what your guys' thinking about that intake tube, and if there's any other options rather than the RT charger tube. Because like I said, I'd like to do something that's not of a plastic nature of that, like that. Maybe a hard plastic, as long as it's like a smooth plastic, would be nice. But I don't know. I'll see. I started researching that recently, and that's about all I found so far. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us over on Instagram at Offbeat Motors, and I'll catch you guys next time around. Guess I spoke too soon. It's going nuts. Won't come out of this page. I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm not trying to pair anything at the moment. Hi, vey. Nothing. Oh, that did something. Nope. Still nothing. Son of a bitch.